Hello, Gabriel. It is me, Gabriel. A couple of things. First of all, I'm going to try and make the effort to ultimately speak a little bit slower because something I will be getting into later is the fact that I have started recording for a YouTube channel to do a video essay or two. I'm not sure how long that will last or what kind of content I will put out for it or how long I will put out content for it in the first place. But right now, the main issue I have is that when I record and listen to the playback, everything comes off as having been spoken a little bit too fast, like in a Ben Shapiro kind of way, which is not how I want to be interpreted. I want to be speaking a lot slower. And perhaps there is nothing I can do about that, but the one thing I can do is hopefully train that muscle to slow down a little bit, get out of that like Call of Duty call out mentality. I can't really prevent pronouncing words very fast, but I can probably space them out so that people have a little bit more time to comprehend each word I'm saying, basically, instead of saying everything all in the same sentence, right? Because every word I just said right there, I said it very fast and I didn't space it out. So you kind of have to, after hearing that, you have to kind of go back and say it again for yourself to figure out what I'm saying. So I'm slowing down a little bit. And also, it's been a very productive week for us, hasn't it? I mean, it's been very productive and I guess very happy as a result of that. Number one, I guess I should say, the usual, the fasting, uh, the exercise, by walking 5 miles every single day, under 1,500 calories. That's all been rock solid, hasn't changed. As far as WGU is concerned, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to finish the course material, like the reading for one class, and hopefully take the objective assessment later on today. So that'll be two courses done in 2 weeks, which is a phenomenal pace. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep that up because a couple of my classes are math based, and that's something that you actually do have to learn instead of just, reading something and being able to memorize it, which thankfully I have a pretty good memory. So most of what I read passively, if I'm reminded of something on a test, it just comes back to me. So I don't have to really study it or get it down in my mind as much. But I mean, I can't really complain considering the fact that, listen, 6 credits in 14 days, that's more than what I've done in college so far. Or, that's outpacing college so far. I apologize for the nasal voice and, the huffing and the puffing and maybe breathing through my mouth a little bit. It is spring, which means my eyes are itchy. My nose is very leaky or stuffy, mostly stuffy. It's not very fun to deal with, but it's something that I do, in fact, have to deal with, so I do apologize for that. Now, as far as productiveness is concerned, finally got the laundry done yesterday, which I know is like a regular thing that people do, but for me, I feel very insecure about the like very like rotary tasks because what I don't like is having to do a task, right, in public and messing something up and having people see that I messed it up. So, that was what I was always scared of, having to call my mom and be like, and asking her something as simple as like, "Hey, how do you use this laundry machine?" Which I know how to use my laundry machine in my house and a couple of other laundry machines, but not the ones in this building. And when she took me down there to demonstrate, she made it really complicated. So I was kind of putting off doing that for a while. But thankfully, nobody was there, so I took the time to figure it out, and now it's actually very easy. So I will just be going back there every week and doing the laundry now. But oddly enough, something as simple as going and doing my laundry, that was kind of like a really big leap for me to take, and I think now things are a lot better. I no longer have that kind of like voice in the back of my head, like, what if somebody sees you mess up? That's gonna be so bad. Another thing, that video. It's a video essay slash review slash look back slash casual, just kind of commentary on Ratchet and Clank 2. Now, one thing I don't like about this video, the sound of my voice. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I don't like how fast I speak, so I had to kind of do a re-recording. But also, there seems to be a problem with me taking a lot of breaths, which apparently can be solved next time by me talking next to the mic as opposed to in front of the mic, so it doesn't really pick up those breaths. But the last thing, and something that can't really be fixed, I really don't like the sound of my own voice. I really don't. I think it's really high pitched, and especially combined with the spring allergies, it might be even more nasally than usual. Or at least I'm hoping that's the spring allergies. I hope it isn't just by default sounding like that. It sounds really nerdy, and I don't know if maybe like lifting some weights will give me more testosterone and that'll make me sound a little bit better. But I do not like that voice. But I suppose that most people, when they hear their voice on a video, they don't like it. So I'm just trying to put it out there and just never hear it again from myself personally. But I'm gonna have other people watch it basically. As far as uploading is concerned, we're about 50% done with the actual, syncing up audio to video and like editing the video, which has taken a really long time, honestly. It is a really tough video to put together since, number one, um, it's a longer one, like something like 12 minutes, I would say, once it's done. Once it's done with like all the audio and the clips and everything. And number two, it's like there's a lot of advanced editing. I mean, I wouldn't say advanced editing, just like a lot of tedious editing, basically, where whether you're a professional or a newcomer like me, it does take a long time to do. But if you are a newcomer like me, you're not very familiar with Sony Vegas, so you kind of have to get a refresher on how to do most of the things within that app. And also, Sony Vegas has a habit of crashing on me and doing things very slow and spiking my CPU to 100% for no reason. So that's something I've had to deal with, but I would say in the next 3 days or so, I should have everything finished up. But man, it is really really tedious actually to put everything together. But I imagine it'll be very satisfying when I get everything put up and on the YouTube. I think people will like it, but it is the first video. I do feel insecure about like a lot of the ways things are written, how I sound, and this and that. But it's the first video. I talked about it with Trevor. The confidence builds over time, so hopefully with each video I put out, whatever I put it out on, things will get better. Hopefully I do sound a lot more confident, and I kind of, grow into that voice. Kind of just say whatever. What else was I on to? I'm on NoFap right now, but not like the like the don't touch my dick kind of NoFap, just the kind of avoid porn NoFap. I've kind of realized I'm at a stage in my life. I read this book last year actually called The Defining Decade. And basically one of the big points of the book is that basically when you're young, I forget if it's like when you're through puberty or when you're a kid, but there's two separate times in your life where your brain is suddenly a lot more neuroplastic and basically a lot more moldable into what you want it to be. So like whatever habits you pick up, your brain subconsciously picks up, right? So one of those happens like earlier in your life, but the second time and the final time happens around the age of 20, right? So when if I were to say like smoke weed or do a lot of hookah or, jerk off to a lot of porn, at this age, I already do that stuff a lot to begin with, but if I were to do that at this age, like for pretty much the rest of my life, my brain would kind of be hardwired as like, okay, this is more or less like a very important ritual. It's a regular ritual. So it would kind of feel like empty without it. And it might be too late to cut it out, but and I don't know how much motivation I have to kind of quit this stuff because it's honestly like it's a really tough thing to quit. I've been on diets, I've done exercise, but like I think the longest I've been without porn ever was like maybe 12 days during November at RIT. But I mean, listen, especially if you're single and don't have a girlfriend, it is actually very hard to stay away from porn. For myself personally, I'm not really afraid to open up about that. Maybe I should be, but that's just how it is. I think right now I'm on like my third day without it. So, it's still pretty early, but thankfully, the good thing is I've been keeping myself busy. And that's basically the best way to, not come back to it, is to not have that free time. And yesterday was just like extremely busy because I woke up, did my usual WGU stuff for about 2 hours. Then I edited the video until 12, ate breakfast, headed out to pick up an envelope for Patrick, which took about an hour back and forth with the drive. Headed to Forest Park, did the 2 hour walk. Then I dropped off the envelope at Patrick's house. And from there, I got home, I did the laundry, which kind of, just took up a huge amount of time. Got back in here, edited the video for 2 hours, read for 2 hours, and then went to sleep. Like there aren't really any gaps in that day where it's like I'm just doing free time kind of stuff apart from reading. But I kind of view reading as like a very very good thing for me because number one, it is a little bit of fun when you finish a book or read something very fun. I did finish Ready Player One 2 days ago. And number two, it kind of like trains that muscle in my head because obviously I'm reading a lot of WGU material, which is just them giving you basically like a textbook full of info. Here you go, read all this. So if I'm constantly reading, I feel it'll probably be a lot easier to digest that material and, maybe I'll retain it easier. But there's also just like a great feeling of just, every time you go through a book, it's like, boom, got that done. Next. But I should talk about Ready Player One because I finished that book in about a week, I want to say. I'm not really sure when I started it, but by the end, I was really turning the pages, man. Let me tell you. As far as the movie is concerned, I remember vaguely liking the movie, but details were kind of hard to go by. But I decided to read the book first and then watch the movie and see what differences there were, right? And after having read the book, I can say that the movie it's borderline unwatchable at this point because it skips over so many details. And to be fair to the movie and to Spielberg and everyone involved with that movie, I can understand why that is because obviously when you have 363 pages and people read it at their own pace, much like a video game, you can basically decide the pacing yourself. There's no rush. You can take the time to flesh out the world, flesh out the characters, put in all the details you want. Now, movies are a little bit different, and while this could have been a 2 hour movie and made things like a little bit more fleshed out, ultimately it was like maybe 90 minutes. Excuse me. And a lot of this stuff had to be compressed. And because it had to be compressed, a lot of these other plot beats, like certain events that happened in the story, they had to be straight up changed because a lot of that stuff was just building up. This guy Parzival or Wade, he knows this, therefore this, therefore this, therefore he, has the realization that this key is over here. But in the movie, it's a lot more simplified. He wins the first key in a race, the second one in like the Shining or whatever, and the third one sort of in the same place as the book. Sort of. But I can definitely say I like the book a lot more than I like the movie now. It definitely does a lot in the way of world building and making things feel very established. I was thinking about getting the sequel, but everyone has told me basically unanimously that it's a steaming hot pile of garbage. It's basically a retread of the first game. I'm sorry, first book. The 80s references, which I actually did not like in this book because it just kept hitting you like, hey, he's wearing an 80s t-shirt with an 80s music track. Okay, this music track, it came out in 1982. It bombards you with a lot of 80s stuff, and it gets a little bit grating towards the end, but thankfully the actual plot itself and like the idea of the Oasis, it does a lot to kind of circumvent that what I consider to be a bad part. I like the 80s a lot, especially music wise and aesthetic wise, but I felt like every single page Ernest Klein was just reminding me, hey, wait, remember the 80s? That stuff was pretty cool. I get off topic, but the second book in particular, it has more, like, even more subtle references to the 80s, like, really, really subtle stuff that, like, you can't even pick up on. Apparently, Wade is an asshole in this game, or, fuck, in this book. He treats his friends a lot different. They're kind of, like, less important, and, I mean, since he's, like, half a trillionaire, what else can you write with him, I guess? I might get around to reading it regardless, but there's kind of like a sense for me to keep that prestige that the first book had, let it simmer in for a little bit, let it cook, and then maybe like a month down the line, perhaps I'll pick it up and just see, how bad it is in the first place. Because people really do not like that book. I checked on Reddit, I checked the reviews. Both the critics and the users are basically telling me that this is not worth watching, not worth reading. I apologize. But as for the book itself, the original Ready Player One, I actually feel bad that I didn't get around to it until now because I didn't realize how much I like fiction, and when fiction, like a genre or like a setting, really clicks for me, it is really magical, you know? Um, a big part of why I kind of got disconnected from books recently is because a lot of that stuff was self help based or, really nonfiction, and it was just really, really boring stuff. Maybe useful information, but written in a way by very boring people for very boring topics. And Ready Player One is just a lightning bolt reminder for me that, books are also allowed to entertain you, while you train that muscle in your head for reading, you can also kind of get taken away to these, really expansive worlds. And I really felt that with the Oasis as a gamer, obviously. I'm hoping I can pick something up like it in the future. But for now, the one we're reading right now, the book is called Bloomberg by Bloomberg. And as expected, it's not Bloomberg's fault or anything like that, but there is kind of like a drop in excitement because it's talking about, his life and mentioning specific people. And it's like, but I like the guy, and I kind of want to learn a little bit more about him, so I'm just reading the book for that sense. Because that's what books are for. Knowledge. Here in my bedroom, just bought this new book, Bloomberg by Bloomberg. It's sitting over there without the laminated cover. So that was Ready Player One. 4 out of 5. Just, if the 80s references weren't there, it'd probably be a 5 out of 5. Like the excessive 80s references. In moderation, that's fine, but, it was excessive by the end. Had a lot of good twists. The world felt very fleshed out. Hey, Pichu. That's my girl right there. Hello, Pichu. I guess you're waiting for me to weigh myself, right? I guess we should do that. I've been talking and rambling for 17 minutes. I probably should get around to my schoolwork. You know what I've noticed? It seems the more excited I am for something or about something, the faster that I may speak about it. I have made the conscious effort, like I said at the beginning, to slow down my speech, but I notice that every time I get passionate about something, I just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. So that is something that I have to keep in mind. Okay, but I'm about to step on the on the scale, so just 1 second. Last week I was 191.5, I believe. I'm a little bit scared that I might have plateaued a little bit, but we shall see. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to weigh myself again just to make sure. This one says 188.5. We're going to wait for it to disappear so I can do it again. 188.5. That's the one. Congratulations, Gabe. I'd say about 2 weeks from now, you're going to be back to... No, you won't. About 3 weeks from now, you're going to be back to 180, which is where you were about the time when you graduated. Or no, was that July 2019 was when you were 180 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. But slow and steady wins the race, I guess. I'm happy that weight loss is still happening, considering that I have a bad habit of getting really discouraged when the weight loss isn't what I wanted it to be. But 191.5, that's a solid 3 pounds lost, 3 pounds. And if we keep up at that pace, it'll take 3 weeks for me to get back below 180, which will be fantastic. It'll be the first time I've been below 180, like I said, since July 2019, which is about 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. You can see I'm very enthusiastic, which is why I'm talking faster. But honestly, Gabe, I've been talking for about 20 minutes, and I have some work to do, so I'll catch you later. That's everything that's going on in my life right now. Wish you all the best. And let me know, how's the beard? I don't know if you're looking back at this and saying it's cringe or not, but how is the beard? We're working on it. Catch you later. All the best.